Hi, welcome to 2020 Tasty Treats, Applique series Things That Go. We're having a lot of fun doing lots of things that go, as you can see. We've already done 9 of our 20, so we're on number 10 this time. And if you've already signed up on GourmetQuilter.com for the pattern, you'll have something like this that you can print out. And this is kind of a little, shall we call this one a little bit of a workout, because it's on a push bike, and that's what we do on a push bike. It's quite fine, this one. You possibly could do it slightly larger, but this is the size I've done it to fit this little block here. So I've gone ahead and I've cut everything out and I've started positioning things. So I put my wheels down first and I just measured up so that they're both sitting fairly level. And when I cut the wheels out, they're only kind of skinny. So this is the centre of the wheel, which has got the spokes markings on it. So you could pop that behind and you could maybe pop it on a light box to trace it. I'm just going to do a rough gauge with a pencil. I'm going to draw some spokes on, and I really am just doing a little, hoping that I'm in the right place, just very lightly with a pencil so that I can stitch over these lines. But you, as I said, you could do it with the light box if that was easier to have the pattern part behind you, or you could just do it free motion as you're sewing. Now the other thing I thought I'd mention, so cutting the wheels out was, they're quite fine, so it kind of was all together like that, and so it's just a matter of going into the circle and then cutting the circle out so that you get the whole, just the tire, the rim. And the same sort of thing applies when you're doing something like this frame for the push bike. So what you can do is either cut it out like I've done the wheel, so that you kind of go into it and cut it around like I have that shape, or you could just cut a little slit somewhere, because it's all fusible, it'll all sit back together again. So you could do that so that you can get into it if that was easier. It does make it a little bit more fluid as far as putting it down on your fabric goes to applique it, but it is just an option if you can't do the cutting out on those fiddly shapes, because they are quite tight, some of them. So I'm going to position this frame now, although I've got another little piece to go in behind. Everything's numbered so that you get some idea of where things sit. So I think there's a little bit here that goes behind somewhere down here. Might have to adjust some of these. So it's coming more or less from the centre of the wheel. I think that bit sits slightly at an angle. And this one comes to the centre of the front wheel. You probably can't see with my hand in the way. So now I've just got to move that little circle that's behind there just up. It's the little cog that keeps the chain and everything going. I haven't put the chain on this, I have to say. The chain was beyond me. Looking pretty good. So this bit that I cut here, just so that I could get into that triangle, just make sure it meets up so that you can't see it. And once we stitch that, iron it on and stitch it, it'll all look pretty good, I think. And so this little circle here just goes on top of the point there, and then we've got something to sit on, a nice bright red seat. How exciting. Well, that's all looking pretty good to me. So, and I've marked my little spokes, so some of them are a little bit behind the applique, but that's okay because we won't stitch those ones because they're behind you and you can't see them. So there's the bike, a very simplified version of a push bike. However, it's looking quite fun and it's a thing that goes, so it's part of the series. So I'm just going to iron those in place, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of stabiliser behind. And then I'll go to the machine, I'll go and do maybe around one of the wheels, but really it's all fairly straightforward. It's just a little bit, I guess, on the tight side because everything's quite small. But I just love the fact that we can do things so small because we're using things like the fusible web, and the free motion stitching allows you to get into all sorts of little places that you might not get into otherwise. So I'm going to come around the wheel, inside wheel first, but I'll come back so that I can do the spokes. So I might have it facing me. So just close to that edge. And because it is quite fine, you might want to turn your work as you go, and you can do that when you're free motioning something small like this. Let's get rid of this thread. So now I could go onto the frame now, but I think I'm going to stay in this inner circle here and do these spokes while I'm here. So I'll come in. So I'm just going to come in and come back out again. So it's just a matter of going around the circle. Spoke by spoke, really. So I can continue on doing this, and I'll come back and show you a little bit more shortly. So I've finished doing the wheel, and I've just come onto the frame, and I'm coming around these little handlebars. They're quite tight, so just take your time. So I just thought you'd like to see that you can do things even as fine as this on the machine. I'm going to come up and go around that lovely bright red saddle. So even though things are really tiny like this, you can see that you can still just do all this. Just take a little bit of time, a little bit by bit. Now when I get down to something like this where I've got that circle in behind, I'm just going to do that in segments as I get to it. And I might even do the same thing with this bike tyre here, so I don't have to stop and start to come back in. Now there's also a little spoke in there, I might do that while I'm here. Just need to back up to make sure, you do need to make sure every little edge is stitched. I'm going to stay on the frame for the moment, but I still need to do this little cog that's in behind here. And then the pedal. So really it's just the same thing. I'll just continue on, because you've pretty much seen all the difficult stuff now. Not that it's particularly difficult. So I've gone ahead, I've done my push bike. I'm pretty pleased with it. It was certainly slightly more challenging than some of the other blocks, but you know, there's nothing like a little challenge to improve our skills. So I'm just going to give it a quick press, make sure that everything's sitting well, and it seems to be. On the back you can see the stitching. It still looks like a push bike on the back, which is pretty impressive. So that was Applique Things That Go number 10. So this is going to sit up here quite nicely, fits in quite well with everything else. There's a lot of things going in the same direction here. So that was number 10, and so I'll see you again, thank you, with Applique number 11.